Test process in software testing. In the previous video, I talked in detail about test process in software testing, test planning. So in the test process, the first thing that we looked at is the test planning. So if you have not watched the previous video, make sure you go back to watch what the test process is all about in software testing, then what is test planning, and the detailed information that was given in that video before you come to this. All right. So if today is your first time on this channel, kindly click on the subscribe button. Also ensure you click on the notification bell so you can get updates each time I drop a new video like this. So let's go deeper into this. All right. So test monitoring and control. Immediately after we have done with what is called the test planning, the next thing is to do test monitoring and control. However, test monitoring and control happens throughout the test process and in fact throughout the software development lifecycle. So though it looks sequential, but they can overlap. What I mean by sequential overlap is though all these test processes, please go and watch the test process overview video so you can understand what I'm talking about here. So we have about 7 or 8 of them. So and each of them can be done sequentially, but most of the time they overlap. For instance, test analysis, test design can be done simultaneously, right? Meanwhile, test monitoring and control can be done throughout the test process and throughout the development lifecycle itself. Okay, and of course, test planning can happen at any time. Of course, like for instance, in iterative software development lifecycle, like iterative software development lifecycle. In such situation, test planning happen in each cycle, and in fact, most of this test process happens in each cycle. So they can really overlap. Okay, after test monitoring and control, whatever feedback you are getting from there can also be used to adjust or to readdress the test plan. So these things overlap. Please go back to watch previous videos. Let's assume you are studying for an examination and you're expected to have covered at least 70 pages of 100 pages of your textbook in 1 week. At the end of the 1 week, you only manage to cover 35 pages. Now, checking your progress or actual textbook coverage against your expected coverage or objective is called monitoring. It's as simple as that. You have an objective or a plan, an exit criteria, acceptance criteria to read 100 pages of your textbook in 1 week. Or I mean to read 70 pages of your textbook in 1 week. But at the end of the 1 week, what you have done is to read 35 pages, which means you are short of 35. Okay, so what you have just done is to do a monitoring. That's exactly what you have done, to do the monitoring in order to check where you are and what is expected, the planned progress against the achieved. All right, against the achieved. Right. So now we have test monitoring is simply checking your test progress against your test objective, right? So remember when we talk about test planning, we have some objective, maybe discovering as much defect as possible as an objective. Okay, during the test, maybe within a simple a particular test level, say system testing, right? And in that level, you are meant to discover, let's say, every defect as possible. You can't discover all defect, but as much as you can. Now, and the time frame is, or let's say an objective is to fix or identify defects. Say you now have about 100 defects, and then those defects ought to be fixed in 2 weeks. But at the end of the 2 weeks, only 30 of the 100 have been fixed. So that can be a real issue, and it could pose a risk of this on the software quality. Now, let's say if it is not met, like when you have shared your test progress against your test objective. Now, let's assume it is not met, then it can lead to a redress in the test plan. So why a redress in the test plan? It's simple. It's just to look for, how can we, make things happen? How can we correct things? And that is exactly what is called test control. Okay. Now, let me take this again. Test monitoring is simply checking your test progress against your test objective. If it is not met, it can lead to a redress in the test plan or a change of test approach, okay, or adoption of a new test technique, such as experience-based, like exploratory. This mitigation is the control. So why monitoring is showing you, this is where we are, our progress. This exactly control is, now what are we going to do to make this thing happen? So now, so you decide to be reading twice every day. Now remember the first example. Then you decide to be reading twice every day, right? Because you are supposed to cover 70 pages of 100 in 1 week, but you're unable to do that. But you only cover 35. So now you decide to be reading twice every day, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning, then 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. in order to meet up with your plan, progress, or objectives. This is a control activity. So usually a control activity is a correction, alright? Test control is or are the corrective actions that you adopt, having gathered feedback from test monitoring to ensure that all planned objectives are met. So that will be all for test monitoring and control, and thanks for watching this.